Should Christians celebrate Halloween? Well, let's find out together next on Table Talk.
Good evening, and welcome to a Table Talk Halloween special. I'm your host with the most, Ken Parrish. Sorry about all the dramatics. It's just the actor, the filmmaker that's in me. But all the joking aside, there is something kind of serious I want to talk about today. And every year around October, the question is always asked whether or not Christians should celebrate or even participate in Halloween and all the Halloween activities. Now, for a lot of people, that's a simple question. It's either yes, you can celebrate Halloween, or you don't. It's that simple. But when you really look at it, Halloween and whether to participate in Halloween is a very complicated issue. There's a lot of different sides to it. So I would like to kind of take this opportunity and go over some of the different sides that I have found in the celebrations of Halloween, and together we can make that decision as to whether or not we should celebrate Halloween. Now, my goal, and I have some notes here, but my goal basically is to keep this video short. Any of y'all have ever talked to me one-on-one will know that I'll head down one road, and then before you know it, we're like 5 roads over here somewhere, and then we have to work our way back to the original road. So I've got some notes here to try to keep me on track so we can make this video short and not really just go on and on and on some tangent. So I do have some points that I do want to talk about, and I think I think these points would be good for you to think about as well when you are considering whether you or your family should participate in Halloween activities. The first point to acknowledge is that Halloween is not a gospel issue. Now, I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this, but in all honesty, Halloween is not a gospel issue. The Bible does not talk about Halloween at all. It does say, though, that we do need to have some type of discernment as to what we do in areas that the Bible is not clear upon. Now, I will give that. If the Bible doesn't say something is evil or something is sinful, then you have to pray about it and show some discernment as to what you think you should do. Now, look at this poster here. This poster I came across during my research on this subject. And it says here that true Christians have nothing to do with Halloween. And then it says, abstain from all abstain from all appearance of evil. 1 Thessalonians 5:22. I have an issue with this. And a lot of y'all saying, well, maybe you shouldn't, but I do, because when it says up front there, it says true Christians have nothing to do with Halloween. That is basically saying that, hey, if you choose, after careful consideration, you choose to participate in some type of Halloween activity, then you're not a true Christian. And I do have a problem with that. This is what we would call legalism. Now, what is legalism? Legalism in its basic form, and I got it written here, I want to read it to you. It says, legalism in its basic form is when we speak on behalf of God in areas He has not spoken and judge people on these false principles. Okay? In other words, we say that something is in the Bible when it's not, or we make ourselves, we look like a better Christian than what other people are. That is legalism, and that's exactly what this poster is talking about. That's exactly what that poster is talking about. It says true Christians have nothing to do with Halloween. So in other words, if I participate, I'm not a true Christian. You are judging me. You're putting something in the Bible that's not in the Bible. And you are raising yourself on a pedestal that is above me as far as Christians go. Jesus also had to deal with stuff like this as well. And if you look in Mark chapter 7, verse 7, pull it up here. It's an area where he's talking to the Pharisees. He's talking to the Pharisees. And actually, I'm going to begin in verse 6. So this is Mark chapter 7, verse 6. And he says, he answered, meaning Jesus, answered. He answered the Pharisees. He answered and said unto them, the Pharisees, well hath Esaias prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Now this is the point that I really want to make you aware of here as far as legalism goes. Verse 7, howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrine the commandments of men. You hear that? They were teaching and saying that these commandments that man has come up with are scripture. They're putting stuff into the Bible that's not there. So be careful when you talk about that. And you have to look at it this way. Not everything involving Halloween is evil or even sinful. I mean, having your children kind of dress up in costumes, let's say a cowboy or astronaut or their favorite superhero, Wonder Woman, Aquaman. What's evil about that? There is nothing evil about that. Going door to door asking for candy. There's nothing wrong with that. The Bible does not say, look, don't dress your child up in a cute costume and have them go off asking for candy. It's just not there. Not everything not everything associated with Halloween is evil. In fact, it could be a family affair. It can be a family affair, going door to door. Maybe dress the family up as the Avengers, or the League of the Justice League, or something like that, and go to door. It can bring the family together, and not only the family, but it can also bring a community together as you go from house to house, and you talk to neighbors that maybe you don't talk to too often. So I just want to point that out real quick, that the issue of Halloween is not a gospel issue, okay? Are there sinister parts to Halloween? Yeah, of course there is. And we'll get to those later on in the video. But just know that not everything is evil. Like Sigmund Freud said, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Now, the second point that I want to tackle, and I don't want to spend too much time on the second point because I think it's more of a distraction than anything else, and that's the origins of Halloween. Now, a lot of people, they argue the fact that we should not participate or celebrate Halloween because it began as a pagan holiday. Okay? The origins of Halloween is very clouded, very foggy. There's evidence that it started with a Celtic tradition of Samhain, which was a festival for the dead thousands of years ago. But since then, European traditions have been mixed in. Catholicism has been mixed in, as well as Protestant traditions have been mixed in. And now it's just a huge melting pot of different traditions that's in there. So to say that you don't want to celebrate it now because of its pagan origin is very weak argument. It's a very weak argument. I got it right here, and that it's what we call a genetic fallacy. Now, I want to read to you what a genetic fallacy is. A genetic fallacy, it's a fallacy of irrelevance that is based solely on someone's or something's history, origin, or source, rather than its current meaning or context, okay? And this is what I'm saying. Just because something had a bad start doesn't mean it still is bad. I've said this for years. Many people say this about Christmas because Christmas started out also as a pagan holiday, Saturnalia. But that's not what it represents now. Same with Halloween. It started off, but now, like I said, it just has all these different cultures, all these different traditions mixed in, and it's not what it used to be. If you want to not do something because of its origins, then you might want to consider the days of the week. The days of the week have pagan origins. Sunday, Monday, for example, are days to honor the sun god and the moon god. That's what Sunday's the sun god. Monday is the moon god. Thursday is Thor's day. Now, Thor was the god of thunder. And then you had Saturday, for example. That's Saturn's day. And right offhand, I forget what god Saturn was, but he's a god. So you have pagan origins in a whole lot of things. Another example of pagan origin is baptism. Now, when we talk about baptism today, we are talking about something that the majority of Christians do when they become saved is because most people realize that you can't get saved through baptism. And there's some out there still believe that you can, but I think the majority of the people realize is that you get saved and then you get baptized. And baptism is a way of expressing to the public what has happened inside. It stands for your death, burial, and resurrection, and that you've died with Christ, you were buried with Christ, and you were resurrected with Christ. That's baptism. But before it became a Christian thing, many years before that, it was a Babylonian cleansing ritual. So baptism itself has a pagan origin. So that's what I said. I don't want to really spend a lot of time on the origins of Halloween because, like I said, it's a distraction. And anybody who uses that argument, well, I don't want to say, but it's a weak argument. Another point that I want to point out here is trick-or-treating. Now, we've already kind of touched base on trick-or-treating. Is it evil? No. Is it sinful? No. Go door to door. Have fun. Look at these kids here. See this clip? These kids are dressed cute. You have a hot dog. You have some type of scuba diver. You have, I don't know, a bear. And I don't know. She might be a princess. I'm not for sure what she is. But they're having fun. And you can have fun. So, go trick-or-treating. Take your kids trick-or-treating. There's churches now who do the trunk or treat, or some whatever it is. But you get my drift. You can go to church, and you can go to car and get candy. There's churches that have what they call fall festivals or harvest festivals. And to me, these trunk or treat is no different from trick or treating. But instead of going from door to door, house to house, you're going from car to car, trunk to trunk. Your fall festivals are basically your Halloween parties. They're just leaving off the Halloween name. And if I'm wrong, leave a comment and let me know, because I'm not for sure. Because in all honesty, I've never been to one. I've seen them advertised at the church and stuff, and but I've never been. But kids dress up. They get candy. They get food. They play games. It's a party. And there's nothing wrong with having a Halloween party. When I was a kid, we used to bob for apples. We used to pin the tail of the donkey. There's nothing wrong with things like that. Now, I know those games are way retro to today's children. But I'm sure that today's children also have simple games similar that they can play that are very innocent games. So, have fun. Now, there does come a point in time, though, where that fun can cross over to something else. And I'm going to just touch base here real quick on this, is that for you older people, you older teenagers, your adults and things like that, if you are going to a party and your main goal to go to that party is to drink and to get drunk, then yes, that is a sin. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. The Bible says you should not get drunk. It frowns upon drunkenness. Big time. God frowns upon it. So if you're going to a party knowing full well that you're going to get drunk, that you're going to do things that you normally don't do, yeah, you're committing a sin. Now, talking about, like I said, I just want to briefly touch on that real quick. Going back to the trick-or-treating things and different ways to celebrate this particular time of year. In our South America, Central America areas here, we have what is called the Day of the Dead. Now, they've had this for a long time, but it's gaining popularity here in the United States. Day of the Dead, or Dia de Muertes. This is something you have to be really careful about. There are different ways that different cultures in these areas in Central and South America celebrate Day of the Dead. One of the ways is that, and the Catholic Church is very much involved in this, and altars are set up all over the place, including in the schools, because they are preparing to commune with their ancestors, their dead ancestors, their dead loved ones. At a certain time, the church bells, yes, the church bells will ring, ushering in the dead souls. In people's houses, extra places are set at the table so that they can eat with their loved ones, with the spirits of their loved ones. They literally communicate with the dead. This is called nemocracy. And I know I butchered that word. I've been able to say it ever since I started researching. Now that I'm filming, I know I've completely ruined that word. So I'm just going to write the word down here below, and you can see what I'm talking about. But it's talking to the dead, and that is a huge no-no as far as the Bible is concerned, as far as God is concerned. It tells you you do not communicate with the dead. And chances are you're not communicating with your loved ones anyway. You're communicating with demons. You are communicating with demons, not your loved ones. My mom always said that when you die, if you go to heaven, you don't want to come back, and if you go to the other place, you can't come back. So you're in one of two places when you die. And those one or two places is not here on earth, sitting down and having dinner with you and talking with you and whispering in your ear and so forth. So you have to be really careful. Talking to the dead, communicating with the dead in any form, is strictly forbidden by the Bible, by God. Now, other cultures in that area in Central and South America, their Day of the Dead is a little bit different. Instead of communicating with the dead, they remember the dead. And they bring flowers. They hang pictures of their ancestors up. And they say prayers. This is fine. I see nothing wrong with remembering your ancestors. I remember my ancestors. I go to the cemetery, at least I try to get out there at least once a month, if not more, to visit with my parents out there, to visit with my other family members who have died, and I walk, and even some of the family members I've never met that died years before I was born, like my great grandfather, or my great-great-grandfather and grandparents. And, I don't know them, but I go and pay my respects to their graves. This is remembering, and there's nothing wrong with remembering. But once you start communicating, then there might be something wrong here. Now, something also occurred to me before we go on to the next point, which is going to be costumes, by the way, is that Halloween means different things to different people. We was talking about the Day of the Dead and the different ways that it is celebrated, that particular holiday is celebrated. And that is different than Halloween. There are evil things happening in this world also on that night or in this period of the calendar year. You have Satanists out there. You have Wiccas, witches. These are real. They're not make-believe. They're not hocus pocus movie with Bette Midler and these are real. And from my understanding, and I could be wrong, but from my understanding, October 31st, Halloween, is a high holy day for Wicca. And you may have friends who are into Wicca or even Satanism. And they will use these nights to try to lure you in to their circle, if you will. Just don't do it. See, they figure that this night more people are open to the evilness, the ways that they're doing stuff. So they're going to have a seance. And they're going to have a Ouija board or something like that. So they invite you to attend, and you go, and their whole purpose is to get you involved. The best thing to do is if you are asked to attend a seance, to attend a Ouija board or anything divination, anything that's divining like that, palm reading, anything that has to do with the dead, like I was saying, just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't cross that line. Okay. So now I'll go on to my next point, which is costumes. And there's 3 categories of costumes that I've come up with. The first one we've kind of already touched base on. That's your innocent costumes. Princess Leia, your superheroes, Superman, Batwoman. Costumes that you made up. I mean, look at those kids. Look at these kids here. They're out trick or treating. Remember? And they have fun. They're having fun. So you have your innocent costumes. Now your kids can wear the innocent costumes. You can wear your innocent costumes. And like I said at the beginning of the video, you can make it a family affair. Go as the Avengers. Go as Dr. Seuss and the Cat in the Hat, or I mean, there's so many things. A friend of mine last year, him and his wife, they had a Western theme. He dressed as a cowboy. His wife dressed as a saloon girl. I mean, it was fun. It was fun. They did a good job. So that's what I'm saying. You have your innocence and innocent costumes, and that's fine. Go for it. Then you have your second category, which is your gory costumes with all the blood and the scar and the knife or axe through the head and stuff like that. These you might want to frown upon it because God does. You see, stuff like this, the bloodiness and the goriness and the evilness of these type of costumes are an insult to God. And they should be an insult to Christians. I mean, look at Freddy Krueger, for example, from Nightmare on Elm Street. Mega franchise. I couldn't even tell you how many movies there are out there that feature him. But if you watch the first one and it explains the origin of him, he was a child molester. He molested children. Parents found out, they killed him. They burned him in a furnace. Many years later, after the children have grown up, he comes back in their dreams, the children's dreams, and he kills them. So by wearing a Freddy Krueger outfit, costume, you're basically saying, hey, I'm a child molester and I kill people. Is that something that God would approve? I don't think so. Take these other, Michael Myers, Jason. I don't even know. They're basically serial killers. I mean, the movies try to get in as many deaths as possible, each one being more gore, more bloodier than the last. And you're wearing these costumes and basically saying, hey, it's okay. It's okay. And I know what many people think. It's just a movie. It's not real life. But is it? We have child molesters in real life. We have murderers in real life. We have murderers who will hack up a body and distribute the pieces of the body, here and there, all over the place. Even though the characters themselves are fictional, their acts that they do are not. So these are the type of costumes that I believe Christians should steer away from. Once again, it's up to you. You have to make your own decision. But this is something that you should look at. The next category of costumes is your sexy costumes, your seductive costumes. When you go in and these ladies, they put on these sexy cat ones that accentuate every curve of your body. You have your sexy zombies, your sexy vampires, your sexy police officers, and these sexy ones basically show more skin than they do clothing. This is something you should avoid. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 9, it says, "In like manner also, that women adorn themselves in modest apparel." Dress modestly. You can still look good and not be showing everything that you have, that God gave you. But dressing seductively is not a good thing, and I'll tell you why. Besides, the Bible says not to. I'll tell you why. Men are very visual. And if you go into a party and you are wearing something that really shows off, your curves and what and your everything, men are going to notice it. That's a simple fact. Men will notice it. Now, not all men will, but most of those men who notice you are going to have lustful thoughts about you. Jesus tells us that if you have lust, then you have committed adultery with that woman. And guess what? Adultery is a sin. So by dressing seductively, you can cause someone to sin. Now you might say, well, that's not my fault. I didn't do it. And that's the problem, that most people, and I'm not talking about now just women, but men too, because there's men that dress seductively as well. I mean, I've seen women lust over Aquaman, for example, and the six pack and stuff like that. I mean, they're there, but it's out of ignorance that you dress that way, and you say, "Well, it's not my fault. I'm not causing them to do it." Yes, you are. It comes right out. Yes, you are. Now, you may not consciously think about it, but if you wear something like that, then you can cause someone to sin. And the Bible even speaks on that. It basically says that you should not do something. And in the Bible, they're talking about eating certain foods and stuff like that, but it applies to so many other facets of life. If you do something that causes someone else to stumble and sin, then you've sinned yourself. You're not supposed to do things that could cause other people to sin. That's how it is. I'll give you an example. If you like to drink, and you can handle your alcohol, but you have a friend there who cannot, and he's weak, but he looks up to you, and so he starts drinking, and next thing you know, he's drunk. Well, you didn't twist his arm, but you became a stumbling block for him. And the right thing for you to have done was, knowing that he had trouble with his alcohol, with his drinking, is not to drink. Just don't do it. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt you not to have a drink. And the same thing goes with dressing seductively. You can cause somebody to stumble and fall into sin, and you don't want to do that. That is itself a sin. So that's your costumes. The last point I want to talk about is your consciousness. There's a lot of things. Like I said, Halloween is a complicated issue. There's a lot of things involved. And whether or not you decide to celebrate Halloween, it ultimately is up to you. I'm not going to say you to go ahead and celebrate. I'm not going to say you shouldn't. It's up to you. Listen to that little voice in your head, because that could be the Holy Spirit talking to you, trying to give you discernment as to what to do and what not to do. And this goes with all aspects of life as well. Listen to that little voice in your head. If you're not comfortable going to a certain party because you know there's going to be drinking there, and you don't want to be involved, or you don't want to start drinking and get drunk and stuff like that, don't do it. When you're asked to go to the party, just say, no, that's okay. I decide not to go. If you're deciding between two different costumes, and one is sexy Hello Kitty and the other is Little Red Riding Hood, not the sexy Little Red Riding Hood, just Little Red Riding Hood, well, listen to your consciousness. Don't go with the sexy one. Don't go and maybe tempting other people. Listen to and be convicted, and go for discernment. That's what I have to say. There's certain things in Halloween you definitely should avoid, and that would be communing with the dead is way up there. But just let God speak to you, and you make the decision for yourself and for your family. And until next time, well, till we meet again, may the good Lord take a liking to you.